Hey everyone, happy Friday and welcome to the Wilder Ride. Before we start the show, wanted to remind everybody that we do have a way of financially supporting what we're doing, and that is via our Patreon page at patreon.com/the Wilder Ride. And so it goes without saying, we owe some people a thank you. Let's start off with Tara Bain, who has been with us from the very beginning, our very first patron, a stalwart supporter of the Wilder Ride. Thank you, Tara. We have 2 executive producers we need to give top billing to next. That includes Wendy Muller, who joined us last season and has been a stalwart supporter. Thank you, Wendy, for all of your support and your activity in the listeners group. And to Ross Seymour, a golden ticket subscriber. You get executive producer credit as well. Ben Forty Ford, from across the pond, a member of the podcast team of 60 Minutes With, a podcast everyone should be subscribing and listening to. Doug Greenberg, one of the hosts of The Rocky Minute, also a podcast you guys should be subscribing to. Doug, thank you so much. Off the Bounce, the basketball podcast. Thanks, Coach Peacock. We appreciate your support. A big shout out to Jeff Lieboff, one of the hosts of Radio Labyrinth, a podcast you guys should be following. Keep in mind, though, not safe for work. Also, a big thank you to Professor Robert E.G. Black, a podcaster himself, part of the Movies by Minutes family. He did the show Dave Made a Minute and Michael Myers Minute, also in the midst of The Room Minute. Yours truly, along with Walt, were both on Dave Made a Minute, and I was on the Michael Myers Minute. So thank you, Robert, for being a supporter. Melissa Moody, we appreciate your support being out there, and Rob Smithers. You guys are fantastic. It takes a lot to put on a show like this. If you'd like to be a supporter, please join our Patreon group. It starts as little as $1 a month. So let's get to it. Before we waste any more of your time, let's welcome to the stage Gene Wilder.
Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Hey everyone, happy Friday. Welcome back to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute, a podcast that celebrates the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. And for season 2, we are diving into Blazing Saddles 1, Someone's Gotta Go Back and Get a Shitload of Dimes minute at a time. I'm your host, I'm Alan Sanders.
And I'm your co-host, Walt Murray, talking from somewhere in a cave or something.
And we are joined once again by our very special guest, a radio talk personality as well as a voiceover artist. We've got Stephanie Harris. Stephanie, welcome back.
Thanks, Alan. Glad to be here, Walt. Glad you guys are having me back on for another minute. I thoroughly enjoyed yesterday.
Oh, it was fantastic having you on and laughing and joking and having a good time. Walt is once again taking his job on the road instead of being in his office doing the thing that he's supposed to do, which means the podcast instead of his work. He's actually at a stakeout looking in some area in South Georgia. And so we may lose him off and on through the course of this episode. But we're hoping that once we get into Monday, hopefully we've got him back. We may not. We may be completely without Walt for a couple of days. He's on a stakeout. It's a little bit hush hush, right, Walt?
Yeah, I'm going to the beach.
Alan was trying to make it sound mysterious. You screwed it up. Stakeout makes people think, what's he doing?
Yeah, I'm stalking someone.
Right. That's way more interesting. Yeah.
I'm working.
Well, we're here with minute number 80. We are getting ever closer to the back of the movie. We are technically 13 episodes away from wrapping this sucker up, but there's so much still to go and so much to talk about, including this minute's going to have probably one of the most quoted lines of the movie. There's several lines that everybody quotes, but this is one of them that ends up in discussion at some point when you realize you've got a fellow Blazing Saddles fan in the room. So let's go ahead and set the stage. We continue from where we were yesterday. Sheriff Bart recognizing that they've got to create copies of themselves, but he's got to buy some time. So he's whispering into the Waco Kid's ear, and we're going to end the minute with Bart being handed a plunger up on a ridge where he's kind of standing on some rocks to, looks like, I don't know, maybe blow something up. So we got to figure out what's going on in this minute. Let's start off right from the very beginning. We've got a moment here where Bart whispers into the Waco Kid's ear. According to the script, not in there at all that he was supposed to do that. No reaction from Gene, nothing about him whispering and telling his plan, which makes me wonder, was this a Gene Wilder idea to Cleavon? Was it a Cleavon Little idea back to Gene? If I had to pick, knowing Gene Wilder, it seemed like an idea he may have suggested. Like, why don't you lean in and tell me what it is so that way we can really tease the audience, because we're not going to tell them. We're going to let them find out later in the minute.
Well, I think it makes sense because they've got a very good, solid, growing relationship. So you would think that he would let him in on what his plan is. So I think it's kind of cool that we get to see that.
Yeah, they're like the leaders of the plan, working together, figuring it out.
Yeah.
So when he leans over and whispers, kind of like those two, I don't know, they're the head of everything, I guess. And that was probably Gene Wilder planned. I would think, Alan. Walt, what do you guys? I mean, I think so.
Yeah, it feels to me like it would be Gene that did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely has a Gene Wilder feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did have a bit of trivia that said that because they both sort of came from a theater background, but that obviously Gene Wilder had made his way into film and had already had several big roles that people knew him for, from the producers to Willy Wonka. He was often, I've got a little behind the scenes that said that he would often give little hints and tips of how to change your style of acting for camera versus the stage to Cleavon to make Cleavon feel more comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah, when I researched him, he did a lot of Broadway stuff, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
And in fact, went back to doing that. There's an interview someone posted on our listeners page not that long ago that said it was basically a sort of and unfortunately before we lost Cleavon Little way too young. He was talking about that he was in Hollywood for a number of years, but when he moved back to New York and got back on the stage, he suddenly felt happy again and hadn't realized how much he'd missed what it felt like to be in front of a live audience versus being in front of a camera.
Mm-hmm. He did good though. I mean, he and Gene had a chemistry, no doubt about it. Like I said, they were like the two leaders. I love how they became friends in the beginning and just stayed close throughout. So, I think he and Gene was a brilliant actor. Hello, we all know that. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he did give him a lot of direction.
I would really like to see some video of Cleavon on stage and to see what his acting is like on stage versus on the screen. But I bet his personality is so strong that it comes through either way.
Yeah, I do think you're right, though, that he has that stage presence even in this. And one of the things I had to learn how to do coming from stage myself when I started moving into doing more independent films and commercials and other video work is you don't have to be big to come across on the screen. That if you're too big, you can turn into the Jim Carreys of the world where it looks really outlandish and you're really overacting. And that may work if you're doing a really outlandish character or comedy. But the best piece of advice I ever read was you don't have to be loud, just think loud, because the camera can be so close to you, it can catch literally the emotions you're projecting. So you don't have to overemphasize for the back row of the theater. You just have to be real in the moment. Think loud, but you don't have to be loud. You don't have to be really outlandish for the camera to capture your essence. And I think that's why a lot of stage actors do make better film actors once they learn how to pull back, because it's a lot harder to tell somebody to go big, because a lot of times we feel weird and we go, oh, I don't want to be that. So you have to go big on stage for everyone to catch what you're saying and feeling, and your whole body is moving. But on screen, you can compress that down, and it's a lot easier to compress than it is to go big.
I think that you pick up more on the film, more subtleties. So I guess what you're saying is Cleavon pulled it back a little bit for the movies.
Yeah.
From what he would have done on stage. Yeah.
But at the same time, I think we get a really great performance out of him. And I think it's because he did have that theater background, because in some of the scenes, when you think about it, he is actually giving a speech or performing for the people around him when he's addressing the town of Rockridge, when he's addressing the railroad folks, so there are moments where I think that stage acting does work for the character of Sheriff Bart.
Oh, absolutely. And he pulled it back just enough, because to me, he seems big. Do you know what I mean? Not in a bad way. He seems big on the film. He's a main character for me. He's one of the greatest parts of this movie, in my opinion, really, if you ask me. And he's got those subtleties and those looks, and the looks between he and Gene and things like that. He I guess what I'm saying is he can do like the Broadway and stage stuff, like you said, and go really big and dramatic. And then he can pull it back perfectly for film. He did a great job. And if Gene was helping coach him, then he had it made.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
And I'm sure, and it'd be like me on any set, anybody who's actually been in a major figure already in film, if they're saying, hey, here's a trick to try, I'd be really open to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I'm all over that. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that he had that benefit of having Gene by his side, helping him.
You can't ask for a more accomplished actor who's done comedy and serious than Gene. So that's a great mentor.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I love the fact that because they're all concerned when we last left them yesterday that they're going to have to build replicas of themselves. They forgot people, but you've got this dissolve as Gene, he's laughing at the idea. Then you see Sheriff Bart is also laughing, and the two of them start to move off screen right, just as it dissolves to now Sheriff Bart, Mongo, and Jim riding horses. And it looks like they're walking around a structure, but we don't get to see just yet what it is. And I say that because the script was supposed to have the following. A team of horses is pulling a small wooden single-lane toll booth into the center of the prairie. The sign on top of the toll booth reads, Governor William J. Lepetomane Thruway. Dangling over the lane is a smaller sign which reads, Exact Change Lane, 10 cents. Jim is supposed to be, and this is who it was going to be initially, Jim, Howard, and Samuel work together to unhitch the team of horses. Bart says, hurry up, they'll be here any minute. They ride off, taking the team of horses with them. I'm glad we don't have any dialogue really besides the improv. Oh yeah, baby, that's nice.
That's nice.
And Mongo laughing like because we still don't know what the joke is, and I'm glad they didn't show us what was written on the toll booth until Taggart's men show up.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, I agree. Cleavon going around saying that. Yeah, that looks real nice. That's hilarious to me, that part, because he's so cool and groovy back in the Midwest.
Yeah, that's a great line. He is acting, 70s groovy for the character of Sheriff Bart.
Mm-hmm. He is.
Well, and then we get let in on the plan when Taggart gets let in on the plan.
Which I think works better storytelling-wise. I think
it does, too.
Let that joke play out a little bit. We're still wondering, what did he whisper? Now, what did they just set up? Why is even Mongo laughing? Like, Mongo's like, oh, this is going to be good, And we still don't quite know.
Well, and for me, I kind of get worried because I'm like, oh, man, if Mongo gets it and I don't, I'm really dumb.
Yeah. You got to really focus. Well, when you see it, when they do pan to it, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, that's classic. How do you think of that?
We get the shot. It starts off as an extreme long shot, and the camera starts to track camera right, because we see all the riders approaching toward camera in the distance. They're riding hard, and we realize it's Taggart and his war party, if you will, getting ready to head into Rock Ridge. And as we slowly dolly over, we start seeing this structure. We realize, well, wait a minute, there's like a red and white sort of painted sort of a crossbar, almost like a do not cross sign, but it's up at the moment. And as these riders are charging, and they're coming in really, really fast into the frame, just as Taggart and his front and Lyle and some of the guys up at the front are about to go through the tollway, the arm comes down with the ding.
Yeah,
like it knew they were coming.
Must have set off a sensor there in the desert.
Yeah, who was running the toll booth?
Right.
Because when you look where the bar comes down, because we're still behind the toll booth, we see Taggart looking up. So we're going to get the reverse shot in a second. He's going to read what he sees up on there. But at this moment, if you pause it, you see a little toll booth worker window where somebody could actually be sitting in there to take exact change.
And lower the arm. When the horses start coming.
Yeah, did somebody... So whose job was this? Did Van Johnson, is that finally what he's capable of doing? Is just working the toll booth?
I don't even think Van Johnson can handle that.
Poor Van.
I honestly never noticed the toll taker window sitting there where they would actually be inside the booth all day, collecting the fees and opening, or depending on what toll lane you're on, opening the arm, the do not cross arm, or I guess turning on the red or green lights to let you know that you've paid and can keep going down the toll lane. But I love this line, and it is exactly as written. Slim Pickens delivers it perfectly. He looks up, and you hear the frustration in his voice. He's like,
Lepetomane thruway? Now what'll that asshole think of next?
That is so awesome.
This is one of the best scenes, really, in the movie to me.
It really is. It is. I've said this about 18 times. This really is my favorite scene.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, what'll that asshole think of next? And that Slim Pickens voice, and just hilarious. Just the way he says it. And, Lyle's looking up there again, the little loyal follower.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what he'll think of next. But what are we going to do here, boss? Because there's a tiny rail in front of us that we can't get around in this wide open desert,
And I think every one of us has had this attitude towards government at some point, whether it's our person in office or the other side's person in office, that something happens, you're like, what will that asshole think of next? And so I think we all can really relate to this line.
Well, even the idea of collecting a toll to go through the middle of the desert prairie where there's not even a road.
They can just go around, It's so hilarious.
The funny thing is, they don't have to stop.
No, I mean,
bunch of bad guys. I mean, they don't care about the law.
Yeah, they're supposed to be these major outlaws, but they're going to pay that dime, by God. They are going to get that dime. Yeah, they can't just blow around it. Oh, that's
Well, they all start fishing around in their pockets for dime.
Yeah, he starts patting his vest or whatever. Anybody got a dime?
What I love, but when we do get that reverse shot and we're seeing him pat down and we're going to get to the lines, and it's almost like we want to talk about the whole scene almost at once because it's just so funny.
I'm sorry. We're trying,
you get the reverse, and it's got the Governor William J. Lepetomane thruway, toll 10 cents, and then it says exact change lane. So where are the other lanes?
Yeah, you've got options.
I mean, maybe you didn't have to go back and get a shitload of dimes. You could have gotten like $100 bill and just everybody gone around the outside, but we don't get that option. There's just the exact change only lane.
And where are they putting the change?
Yeah, right. Well, and they haven't built the rest of it yet. They've got to build up the tax money from this, and that's what they're going to use to build the non-exact change lanes.
Right.
Well, I thought what they should probably do is collect all those tolls to eventually put the actual road in.
That would be a good idea. I hate those toll booths. I never have the right change. I've actually gotten up and dropped my change before it got in the big bucket before, and then I got to fish around and find more. I absolutely hate those things.
Yeah, no, I'm a much bigger fan. I don't know. Some states are doing this. I know there's a reciprocity agreement between Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina, but Georgia's now got some of these what they call express lanes that you have to pay to use those lanes, whether they're separate lanes or sort of like a carved out lane that only people that have what's called the Peach Pass, for at least for Georgians, you actually affix it to your window and the technology reads your pass and your number and then bills your online account automatically. And I like that so much better. You don't have to slow down at all. You just get on those things and boogie.
Yeah, with the Peach Pass. Yes. Yeah, you know what? I've never been through an actual toll booth.
Your whole life?
Really?
Life. Where I've ever had to put change or give anybody change? Yeah, never have. Mm-mm.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I know.
I guess you've never been to Disney World.
I'm not a fan.
Say Florida is the worst. I flew into Miami and had to go to a meeting. I probably had to go through 6 toll booths between the airport and my meeting and back.
Where you had to give them change? You had to stop and actually... Oh, okay.
Yeah, when I was leaving the airport, I went to the rental place and they said, well, where are you going? And I told them, they were like, oh, you better stop and get some change. So I about ignored them. Like, no, look, you're going to go through about 5 or 6 toll booths. So I felt like I had just robbed a slot machine because I'm carrying this big bag full of change out to my car. And, I felt like a complete idiot. I was like, yeah, this guy just pulled my leg. But sure enough, I went through that whole bag on the way down and back.
Wow. Yeah, I never have.
Since Stephanie, you've never done this, Walt, I can ask you this question because almost every time I've ever driven anywhere that's got a toll where you've got whether it's a mile marker check-in or it's the initial one to get you on the toll road, it always opens up to like 18 lanes, it seems. Do you ever play that game of all of a sudden as all these options become available, you think to yourself, okay, so which is the really fast asshole I want to be behind who knows how to get his change out quick? Because I always get stuck behind the dumbass who can't figure out that he's in the wrong lane.
Oh, I do that all the time, and I know people do that behind me too. But that happens to me at Publix. If I go to Publix, the person in front of me is going to write a check. I mean, it's
oh yeah,
it's uncanny how I do that.
Yeah, Stephanie, you can identify with that because that happens to me at the grocery store. Okay, there's 4 lines here. All of them have people in it, but which one has the least amount in their cart? I get in that line, and that's the person who waits till the total comes up, and they go, okay, that'll be whatever, and they go, oh, can I go ahead and write a check? Why the fuck are you not filling that son of a bitch out before she's even ringing up the first thing?
Well, and that's also the person who's like, here are all my coupons.
Yeah, that I forgot to give you at the end. Here they all are, 4,000 of them. And I do have a pen I can use because I don't have a pen. I can't find my checkbook. Oh my gosh. That's the person I get behind. Absolutely. I can relate to that. It never fails. And I'm, constantly in a hurry. And so I'm pretty OCD. When I want to do something, I want to do it. I have very little patience for stuff like that. Very little patience for stuff like that. I'm about be prepared because you're not just affecting yourself. You're affecting everybody behind you. You need to go.
Right.
And so
yes.
I have no tolerance for that. None whatsoever. And sometimes it's hard to hide my frustration, but there's an excuse if they've got 4 kids hanging on their legs and one screaming and she's holding a baby. I get it. But if you're just standing there by yourself with your purse, leaning, just watching her scan everything like you're lost and just amazed at what's going on and, just totally space out on getting out your checkbook and your pen. And like Walt said, your coupons, come on, man, that stuff needs to be out and ready to go. So.
Or how about this? And this has happened to me far too often. They decide that after ringing up $100+ grocery bill, the item that rang up for 12 cents more than she said the sticker said on the aisle, it's worth arguing about it and sending somebody back there to do a price check.
I know. I just want to throw 12 cents at them.
I've offered to pay the difference before.
I was just going to say the exact same thing.
I got really hacked off.
I got so angry at this woman. I'm like, you know what? It's not even $1, right? Okay, here. And I said, here you go. Now you've just made money. Okay, go.
Right. Go.
And
move
she's like,
faster.
I'm not taking your money. I want them to give me the right price. I'm like, oh dear God, it's 12 cents.
Go prove your point somewhere else. Go to customer service and fight it out over there. You got a line here, so.
That happened to me the day before Thanksgiving last year. And, so there are 5 million people in the store getting stuff. And I'm getting the one thing that we forgot. And this lady's going to argue about it. And I was like, my brain is about to explode. Please just don't worry about the 8-cent coupon or whatever.
If you just had the nerve sometimes to just go up, not threatening violence here, but sometimes you just want to go up and just kick them in the shin and be like, are you stupid?
Well, I will say I was ready to threaten violence. I had it. I was so mad.
I mean, you picture it in your head, or I do mine. I see myself doing it. Just what is wrong with you? God, rolling them to the side.
And I know I felt like I was being a jerk, but I was like, you are so selfish to hold up 15 people that are behind you over this 12 cents. I mean, anyway. Yes, back to the tollway.
Actually, I was going to come up with another analogy that since Stephanie hasn't done tolls, Walt, depending what time we go through these tolls and people that are listening, if they've got tolls in their neck of the woods, you've got that thing that happens on toll lanes that are similar to like what happens at the Walmart. You've got 75 registers and only 2 people working.
Oh man, that used to drive me crazy. Mm-hmm. On Georgia, there's a highway through Atlanta called Georgia 400, and they built it off of toll taxes. And so it was for years and years and years a toll thing. They would have 1 or 2 of the lanes open that actually you can make change, and the people there could hardly count change, and so it was just utterly insane.
Yeah, imagine you.
And I don't even think it was. And it wasn't like 25 cents or 50 cents. It was like 46 cents toll for a while.
Yeah, it wasn't something easy like 2 quarters.
That's an odd number.
No round numbers here.
No.
We're going to make it something really stupid.
Why make
Where
it
everybody
easy?
has to have pennies.
And that would drive me nuts in a late afternoon or maybe on a Sunday. You know, you're driving home. It opens up. You've got all these toll lanes, and now you got to pay attention to what. Well, all of them have freaking red lights, so I can't get in any of those lanes, and so everybody's like weaving in and out, trying to get in the only 2 lines that are green lit for you to get into. It's like, what the hell? You got like people coming home from spring break, and you got 2 people working.
Yeah.
Well, I had a client down in that area. He used to always like Friday afternoon meetings. So I'd come barreling out of the meeting at like 3:30 or 4 and try to get on the road before it got too busy. And inevitably I'd get in my car and realize I didn't have exact change.
Oh.
And so then and that's when I'd look at the sign and just be, look at so-and-so governor. I'm like, what will that asshole think of that?
Yeah. I'm going to have to go get a shitload of change. Well, what about, what happens if, since I've never been through one of these, say it's 46 cents and you give them 50 cents, will they let you say just keep the change?
That's a really good question. I think I've said that before.
Yeah,
If it's a person there, sometimes there's a basket and you have to throw the exact change in.
Oh, you can't throw more. You couldn't throw 2 quarters in there and just go?
I don't know. I've never tried that. Walt, have you?
Yeah, the Georgia 400 lane would let you do that, but it wouldn't let you do that if there was a person. Like you could go through and throw, 75 cents in the bucket, and it would go ahead and open. And I think it would give credit to the person who was there before. The person behind you, I think it would kind of credit it. So I can't remember. That's a good question.
Yeah, I couldn't. You would think, though. See, that's why we're questioning this, because you would say, well, common sense would prevail. But once again, let's remember this is a government instituted tax.
Right.
Chances of any kind of common sense out the window.
Out the window. Yeah. Here's more money. No, we can't do that. Okay. Let me scrounge around in my seats for 4 pennies then.
Well, this line he says, which we've kind of been referencing, when they're all going through their pockets and all trying to look, he's yelling, does anybody have any change? And first he says,
Has anybody got a dime?
like, that's not going to help. You need more. And then he realizes,
Somebody's got to go back and get a load of dimes.
This is my favorite line of the movie.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, it probably is either their favorite or most memorable, but this is my favorite line. And I think, as I've said before, anything with something and shit is often pretty funny. But that is just such a great line. Somebody's going to have to go back and get a shitload of times.
And the way Slim Pickens says it, too. I mean...
Oh, he is so irritated right now.
Yeah, I mean, just to load it down like it's the worst thing ever, man. But somebody has to go do it or we can never get around this tiny booth in the way, I love it. And
ostensibly, they're working for the governor here. So on top of all that, they've now got to pay his toll.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think of that. Yeah, it's his toll. They're trying to do his dirty work. They can't even get through.
Well, now we know how government works. They're paying him $100 a day, and it's all coming right back to him in taxes.
Yes, taxes and tolls.
I'm loaning you the $100, but you're going to end up paying me back by going through the Lepetomane thruway.
Well, and I'm a visual person too. When you watch this scene, I mean, just the way, like you said, Alan, the way he pats himself down, his vest looking for a dime, hilarious. And then you notice Lyle starts to do it too. They're both just searching like, I know I got a dime.
And not one of them says, hey, let's just go around.
Right.
Yeah.
All like, oh, wait, you're right. How are we going to pay for this thing?
They're morons.
They are morons.
They're evil morons. That's what it is.
Absolutely right.
Or, break the arm off. I mean, there's supposed to be these, what was it? Headley rattled off. He wanted every, gunslinger. What was it? You guys know the scene, I'm sure.
We've got that whole list that he had. Yes.
Yeah. And Methodist. but not one of them's bad enough to, bust through that tiny little wooden thing that I could probably kick down. So
let's just assume there had been a barrier to keep them from going around. It's a freaking wooden arm.
Yeah.
Someone gets off their horse, lifts it, and says, "Okay, let's go."
Yeah. Or just plows through it. They could just plow through, but they don't. That's what makes it so funny.
Oh, it's hysterical for that very reason. Like you said, these guys are idiots. They think, well, we got to go through the toll lane because it says exact change lane only. So now we got to go all the way back to the beginning. And then, of course, it buys our heroes a little more time.
Yeah. And Cleavon knew they were that stupid, or Sheriff Bart knew.
Yeah.
They were that stupid that they'd fall for it. So it's great. I mean, it's a great scene. And again, Slim Pickens' delivery, amazing. Big props to him on his acting in this.
Now, when they do that, too, they all look over their shoulder when he says someone's got to go. Do you think they're all looking back at the last person in line saying, well, I'm not going, you go?
Yeah, you're closest, man. Just turn around and go back.
Hey, can you imagine being the guy who's got to go into some store and hand them a 10 and say, I need this broken into dimes?
Yeah. And then they go, oh, Lepetomane throughway, huh?
Yeah, you got stuck in it too.
I mean, it's not like there's a 7-Eleven right around the corner either. They gotta go all the way back to town.
Yeah, okay.
Where are they going back to? Yeah, the saloon. I don't know.
They're not going to Rock Ridge. We already know they're heading there.
Right.
So where are they going back to? They were meeting in the middle of the freaking desert to begin with.
Yeah, I guess back to the Capitol. I don't know.
Back where they were doing the hangings.
Oh my! All the way back to Hedley Lamarr's office.
I guess. That's the only other town, right, that's even shown, I think. I mean,
yeah,
everything else takes place there.
Yeah, we've got the governor's office, we've got Hedley's office, and the gallows. That's the only that's all we have as a reference to a separate place other than Rock Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
But
I guess
that has never occurred to me. Where are they going back to?
Yeah,
because I always thought for some reason back to their camp. But wait, where are you going to get change at the camp? They're all
right.
You're all already there. The only person that was left behind was Hedley. And I don't think he's walking around with a bunch of dimes.
No, you're right. Where are they going back to? I don't know. Back to...
Unless there's somebody like a BB can full of change around.
Yeah. You never know. A coffee can full. Coffee can full of dimes. What they need.
All right. We end on that line, and we immediately come to a shot where it looks like Jim and Bart are standing on a taller bit of rock on this hill that they're on. And as he's bringing the telescope down, we see someone is handing Bart what looks like a plunger for the old kind of, we're getting ready to, it looks like Olson Johnson hands him the box with wires on it. But the plunger's not up yet. It's down. So it looks like they must have run explosives or something, but we don't know. We don't have that confirmed because that's where this minute ends.
Right. It's pretty obvious that looks like what they're going to do.
They're going to blow something up.
Yeah. And there, just for a second, you can see in the scene that Lily Von Stoop is out there with him, which I love.
I'm glad you brought that up because Lily Von Stoop is dressed in the kind of pantsuit that we talked about, Walts, several minutes back now, that she was supposed to come on stage initially before she changes into her black bodice and outfit. That's how she was supposed to come on stage. We see her back now in that pantsuit outfit that was a sort of a callback to Marlene Dietrich.
Yes, she looks really good in that.
Well, does Madeline Kahn ever not look really good?
Right.
Well, good point.
I mean, male and female audiences, we all agree, Madeline Kahn looks great.
Oh, yeah. She was beautiful, and then just her personality and just being so dang funny, it's the whole package, really. Any guy would be crazy to pass it up.
We do get, as the second is about, or minute is about to end, we see also Gabby Johnson trying to stumble away from the plunger as if he thinks maybe that's what's going to blow up. He looks a little funny, stumbling the other direction from everybody. Like, here got the plunger. Oh, he gets out of there.
He's going toward the possible explosion. We're not sure.
It is Gabby.
Yeah, we're kind of getting the confirmation of Gabby's raging alcoholism at this point.
Yeah. Gabby. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's that whole scene, that whole minute, guys, it's just hilarious. I mean, that is one of the best ones. Walt keeps saying it's one of his favorite scenes, and it is. It's one of mine too. It's just hilarious. It's classic. It'll never be forgotten. And like you said, Alan, you get in the room with another Blazing Saddles fan, they're going to quote that 100 times. Easy.
Absolutely.
And laugh every single time.
And it's like Walt said this many times before, and with Young Frankenstein last season, when you say a line from any of these kind of movies and someone then gives you another line, you found a brother from another mother that you can end up talking to for the next 2 hours.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
Or a sister from another mister.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you start recording them and saying, "Hey, you want to come on our podcast?
You want to be on a podcast? Hey guys, you want to be on my podcast?"
Don't do
really,
it.
really cool.
Stephanie with her 5-star review of her experience on our podcast. Don't do it.
Yeah. Don't do it. Run away.
You will regret every minute.
No.
Now we're quoting Monty Python. Brave Sir Robin, he bravely ran away.
What will these assholes say next?
Oh my God.
Yeah. What in the world will these assholes think of next?
The podcast thruway. I ain't paying for shit.
It ain't worth a dime.
I'm going to kick this piece of wood down and go. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
All right. I know we're not going to get to it because it could have been discussed this minute or Monday. And Stephanie, let me ask you, have you ever seen the TV version of Blazing Saddles that had other scenes that were not in the theatrical version?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I've seen both.
There's another scene that I almost wish was left in the film. Mel Brooks did put it back in for the TV version. We're supposed to see, as they're setting up the dynamite, they go to kind of look back over their shoulder, and someone's riding into town with a stagecoach. And that's not in this theatrical version. We instead will only see the hooligans making their way from the Lepetomane thruway, entering Rockridge. But there's a great scene, and we're going to discuss it on Monday, but I still want to talk a little bit about it today because we've got Stephanie with us, and she's a huge fan, where the governor is on a press tour through the West and stops into Rockridge for a presser.
Oh, and this is the one with like the cutout person that he talks to
On a stagecoach.
Yes, he tries to pose with somebody.
Yeah.
He comes in on a stagecoach, gets out. And again, we're going to go into this in a lot more detail on Monday, but do you remember that scene at all?
Yeah, why did they, well, you can't go into it. You want to save it for Monday, but why did they?
No, we can talk a little bit about it now. We can tease the audience to come back Monday for that discussion, but I don't know why they cut it out. There's a line that I have from Mel Brooks himself who said, "When I went to edit the movie, I realized I needed to cut myself out of most of everything I shot, and I'm all on the cutting room floor." For some reason, he felt he slowed the pace of the film down. But I would have really liked the scene of the governor showing up in town, because that's the movie I actually grew up thinking was the real movie. I shouldn't, not like it was a fake movie. It's the real movie. It's just the theatrical release, which was different. The television release, which was different than the theatrical release. He gets out, and the first thing he does is he says, "God, I hate the West." And then he goes and he talks to the stagecoach driver. He's mad at him. He's like, "Can I have you fired?" And the guy's like, "Nope, Local 32. And then you hear him muttering to himself, "Local 32, damn unions are strangling the West." And then all the press starts going, "Damn unions." He goes, "Don't put that in the papers. You never put that in the papers. I'll lose the blue collar vote."
Yeah, I don't know why. Like you said, I guess he felt like he was in there too much, but him as the governor is hilarious. I mean, you can't beat it. So I would have been happy to see it stay.
I think the only reason why it's out of the theatrical one, and we'll get into this on Monday, so Stephanie, you'll have to tune in and listen with our next guest who's going to be joining us to start the new week. There's a lot more in the script that was supposed to take place when everyone comes riding into town. The governor was still supposed to actually be in the middle of the melee. And I think Mel Brooks realized it doesn't make sense for me to stay in the middle of the fight. It has to be between the citizens of Rockridge and the Taggart and his ruffians with Hedley Lamarr behind it all. And the problem with the way the script's written, there's no easy way to get the governor back out of town then. And the TV version, we just assume the governor just magically disappears. We never see him ride out of town, or why isn't he there when the Taggart's men show up? So that's all I can think of is in terms of storyline. He didn't want himself in the Battle of Rockridge, so you can't have him showing up to Rockridge anyway. Even though it's great material, and if and folks, if you get a chance, I'll definitely have it on the listeners page in our listeners group on Facebook. But check out some of those outtakes that were in the TV release, because again, it's the version I grew up with, so that's the version I was used to seeing. And the first time I ever saw the theatrical release, I actually was disappointed. I'm like, well, where's the scene with the governor?
Right, you missed it. Well, I see Mel Brooks' point. I think maybe that he shouldn't have been in the middle of the fight. Now that you say it, now that I hear you talk about it, I think he should have left Headley to do his dirty work.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it would have gotten a little bit muddy, and we'll get into it on Monday. There were some jokes in here, things where even the governor was going to end up being sort of burnt, like his clothes all tore up, roughed up, with bullet holes in it, where he decides it's the Old West may not be quite the upper middle class town he was hoping it would be. So we'll get into that on Monday in the script. But I was just wondering and Walt, do you remember that scene at all growing up?
I do, actually. And I remember the head of the cowboy that he wants his picture taken with is on a spring, right? It's kind of bouncing around. Yeah, I remember that very well. For years, I actually thought that was part of the theatrical. And same thing you did. I was like, wait a minute, where's that scene with the governor? Right. So I'd have been fine leaving that one in.
Yeah, me too. Even though we never explain why he's not there when the fight shows up, it never seemed to bother me when I was a kid. So I kind of wish it was I wish there was a Blu-ray release of this movie that would allow you to say what scenes you want to reinsert back into your showing, where you could say, I want to see him beat Mongo all 3 times instead of just once. I'm okay with Lily von Stupp coming on stage in the pantsuit. I'm okay letting that last an extra minute for her to ask permission to change. And I want to get this last scene of the governor. Everything else, I don't want to see the fart noises taken out with horse whinnies, and I don't want to see swear words replaced with other words that don't match the actor's lips. But could I at least get those scenes in my viewing?
Well, if they did a director's cut of this and put those back in, I think it would be great. And I think it would be one of the few times that I like the director's cut better than the regular cut. Right.
For those only specific scenes, because there was other stuff that we've already talked about since, Walt, that we're glad either never got filmed or certainly was never put in the film.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I think that didn't get shot that I'm glad didn't.
All right. Well, we're going to start to wrap this up, let people get ready for their weekend. Stephanie, it has been a great pleasure to have you join us for these last couple of minutes. Before we plug what you do, and maybe somebody out there is looking for a voiceover artist or talent to use for a project, is there anything in this minute that we need to go back and talk about? Anything in your notes we missed?
No, I mean, I think that I think we covered it because we really went in deep, because it's, well, again, like Walt said, it's one of the best scenes in the entire movie. Delivery is huge with me, and the way Slim Pickens delivered it, hilarious. So everything, it's just it was a great minute to go over with you guys, and I really enjoyed doing it. I really, that's a laugh out loud part of the movie, no matter how many times you see it. So I was glad to be a part of that. And Cleavon Little, I guess you got to bring this up again, when he just rides around, he's like, yeah, that looks nice. I just love how groovy he's being on that. And you guys knew about the scene that got cut out on that. See, I didn't realize all that. I didn't realize there was going to be more hubbub there. I think it was really neat how they just kept it simple with him cruising around looking at the toll booth going, yeah, all right. He was so laid back. So, no, it was just a great minute. Great Wilder Ride minute. I really enjoyed it.
Let me throw in my comment on the backside of this rather than going to Walt first, is when you talk about Slim Pickens, we hear this term every now and then, an iconic performance. I think Slim Pickens in this movie, nobody else could have done the role the way he's done it. And if it were to ever be remade, I don't think anybody could ever do it justice like he did.
Oh gosh, no. It'd be a waste. I think you can't replace that.
Walt, what do you think?
Yes, I agree with you 100%. I mean, Slim Pickens nails Taggart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't, there's so many movies where you could say, well, I could see somebody else doing that, or that's, an easy character for anybody to play. I can't think of a single person. It's honestly why, to me, Gene Wilder's version of Willy Wonka is the only version, because even an actor as good as Johnny Depp, that was terrible. And he was trying to make it his own and do something different. And it was terrible. There was just no way to ever redo what Gene Wilder has forever made perfect. There is no other Willy Wonka. There's just Gene Wilder.
Agree. Definitely.
So and there's no other Taggart. I can't imagine a single other person who could play Taggart.
No, I agree 100%.
Yeah, there's nobody. You can't pull it off. That's forever ingrained. He'll always be Taggart in that movie, no matter what.
Any other notes from you, Walt?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Stephanie, before we tell everybody what's coming up on Monday, we did mention that you've done radio. You're also right now doing a lot of voiceover work, a lot of reading and putting books to tape or books to audio. And if someone's looking for you for any kind of an audio project, they like the sound of your voice, they want to know what you can do voice-wise, where can they go to learn more about you?
Well, you can check me out on Facebook, Stephanie Harris, or
I'll
also...
check you out.
Yeah. And let's see, what else? Stephanie Harris online.
And awkward moment.
And moving on. No.
Where is that restraining order paperwork?
Right. 911. No, I'm just kidding. No, StephanieHarris.online. Just a few audio samples there. Also, acx.com. It's the audiobook exchange through Amazon and Audible. I have a profile on there. And you can also contact Alan. He knows how to find me. Always.
That's true. If you send us a message at the Wilder Ride at our Facebook, Twitter, heck, even on Instagram, if you've got a question and you want to get in touch with Stephanie, I can help you get in touch with her.
All right. Thanks. Awesome. It's been really fun.
Walt, let's see if you've got a good enough signal from where you are in your stakeout to tell everybody where folks can go over the weekend to maybe throw a little support our way. Or not. Let me end with this. There are a lot of folks out here doing movies by minutes. We are just one of them, and there's lots of podcasts out there. If you're a podcast subscriber, let me just give you a suggestion. If you haven't done it yet, just go to your podcatcher of choice and leave a rating and a comment. It really is nice to hear from the listeners out there, and it does help other people find those podcasts. So take a second, whether you're using Apple Podcasts or if you're listening right now on Spotify or iHeartRadio or TuneIn Radio or Google Play or whatever, take a second, go leave a rating. And, you know, a lot of times as a thanks, well, you'll see folks like us, we'll put the shout outs in our listeners group on Facebook to say, you know, we just got this most recent shout out and we want to say thank you for listening and thank you for leaving a comment. So leave us a rating, leave everybody you listen to a rating and a comment. We would absolutely love that. And come back on Monday. We're going to have a brand new guest returning from season 1, Eric Nash, who is part of the Watchmen Minute that actually wrapped up already this year. We're going to have him joining us on the Wilder Ride for Blazing Saddles. And we're going to start with his scene, bad guys going through the toll booth. We'll also deal more with that TV outtake of the governor's visit to Rock Ridge prior to the gunmen showing up. And we're going to end on Monday with, I'll give it a try, as he leans to cock his gun on his arm and I guess aim at something. We're going to have to find out why he has to shoot something from afar. But to get all of that, you've got to come back on Monday for more of this, The Wilder Ride. Somebody's got to buy Walt a phone that fucking works.
I got to get a shitload of dimes to do that.
We're taking dime donations for Walt's new phone.
We're going to add a new level to our Patreon, the dime subscriber.
You should. You could say something like, "We'll take $1, $5, and we'll also take a shitload of dimes."
And a shitload of dimes. How much is a shitload, by the way? We didn't even think about that.
I know. Well, that would have been good.
For some reason, I got a Bugs Bunny sack in my head, like a big, like the big brown bag with a $sign on the front of it.
Yeah, that's what I picture walking around.
Well, it's enough to get your whole posse through the toll booth.
Yeah.
Right. I guess we have to go back and count how many people go through to find out how much that actually is. Who knows? That may be that $1 donation we've been looking for, or maybe the $3. I'm your host. I'm Alan Sanders. We don't hear Walt.
And Walt.
Walter.
Walt, do your intro.
I am. Hello.
Oh.
Hello. Anyone? Hello.
There we go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Mostly. Just say your line.
One thing I really
Uh-oh. Hold that thought. Let's see if it gets cleared up in a second.
is
Hold on. Hold your horses. Somebody's got to give Walt some more dimes to pay for his phone bill. We only got the first part. We got the first part, and then you started cutting out again.
movie, but I bet his personality.
You can tell our voice isn't getting through to him either.
Right. I know. He just keeps on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're doing a really bad Sprint commercial, but yes.
Yeah.
But I bet his personality is so strong that it comes through either way. You do see.
Sounded like it went either way.
Talk among yourselves.
He's been kidnapped by aliens.
Yeah, either way.
And Jim's got his, I guess his, what do you call that? It's not a what is that called? The
Binoculars?
It's not binoculars. It's the single one. It's a what is that? God.
Telescope.
Not a telescope. We're not looking at the
No,
stars.
there's a
Is that
name.
what that's called?
There's another name for it. Mono something. Mono meaning one. I do know that part.
Oh my God. I didn't even think to look
Monocle?
up the stupid.
Is it not a monocle? That's what the Monopoly
Right.
man wears.
Oh yeah, right. It is a.
The one-eyed binocular.
It is. It's called a brass telescope. Okay, there we go.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, he was right. I think stars when I hear telescope.
They would often call it a spyglass as well. So that's a nickname for it, getting the spyglass out. But
Gotcha.
Walt probably has a spyglass.
yeah, a monocular is the modified refracting telescope used to magnify images of distant objects by passing light through a series of lenses and prisms. The application of prisms resulting in a lightweight, compact telescope. All right, there we go. Now that I'm going to have to clean all that up.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you now. We got the first half of it about Gene Wilder, then you went to comedy. Done well.